All right. Hi, guys. We are giving the module on limiting nutrient.
So just to quickly summarize the module, limiting nutrients are when two or more organisms of the same or different species are present. So their growth and survival depend on their relative abilities to exploit whichever environmental factor is most limiting. You might think back to the lecture we had on this where there was the example of a car, so like a bunch of different elements that go into making a car. You have wheels, lights, and engine. So say you have, I don't know, 3 wheels, 1 engine, and 1 set of lights. Although you might have 3 wheels, the wheels are still the limiting nutrient because you need 4. And you have 1 engine to make a car. You have 1 set of lights to make a car, but you still don't have enough wheels. So in that sense, the wheels would be the limiting nutrient. And here we have a really famous sort of pictorial analogy, which is Liebig's barrel. You see all these slats of wood that sort of form the barrel, and this one right here would be the limiting nutrient because sort of it's in the shortest supply and thus directly corresponds to the amount of water that the barrel can hold, if that makes sense.
All right, so we got another analogy here. Imagine yourself, you're going to be a little high school senior, right? Plan to be class 2021, and you want to grow by going to the best possible school you can, right? So you're sitting there, your credentials are you got a 3.7 GPA, 33 on the ACT, and you got an all right extracurriculars, generic little personal statement. It's better than what I had, all right? So you do research, you find you can get into Harvard. Like, all right, well, I want to do the best, right? So you senior year, you join a bunch of clubs, figure admissions ain't gonna care. You learn to read, so you can write a cool personal statement, and you boost that little credential, right? You boosted this one nutrient, and so now you get into Yale. Like, no, I want to get into the best school, right? So you build yourself a time machine, go back, slam it, get that 4.0, win the ACT, you get that 36, perfect score, and you get in Cornell.
So moving on from that wonderful analogy to the specific context in which we used limiting nutrient, which was phytoplankton. So just thinking back to lab now. So phytoplankton are ecologically important in aquatic ecosystems. They form a very large portion of that energy chain, and their growth in water is limited by a variety of factors. This might be light, nutrient presence, temperature, et cetera, et cetera. So in this module and in lab, we focused on the effects of manipulating the presence of vital nutrients as well as the presence of other competing species on phytoplankton growth.
All right, yeah, so just to go back to lab and review the techniques that we used, there were basically 2 different experiments, the presence-absence experiments and then the interaction between 2 species experiments. And for the presence-absence experiments, you either use a test tube or plant pot method. The plant pot method was used to have a slow release. And then you had the 3 methods of measurement, depending on the experiment that you used. And so we used cell density with the hemocytometer, optical density, which used both the hemocytometer and spectrometer, and the conversion factor, which is really important, which will probably be on the practical. And then chlorophyll A concentration, which used the equation that we included, with A being absorbance, the little v being ethanol volume in milliliters, big V being volume of H2O in liters, and then L being the light path in the cuvette in centimeters. So those are the 3 things that we used. Oh, and
Is that you?
All right, so this was the second lecture we had there, and it's just the highlights of it. The main things you wanted to get out of that was that within an ecosystem, energy is going to travel unilaterally, meaning it only goes into whatever eats the next thing. It doesn't cycle back through, while nutrients tend to be recycled. Not too much. Productivity is limited by usually environmental factors, sometimes artificial factors, and this is where the limiting nutrient part plays into it. Human activity can and has altered environments, particularly the atmosphere, and just remember that ecosystems, everything, kind of locally, communities of the group of the animals, and the populations of particular species of the animal plants.
The other thing to go over is the equation that we use, the NPP, GPP, and R equation, which is summarized. Basically, you have the total possible energy, then the organism uses some for respiration, and the NPP is what's left for them to pass on in some way to the system. And energy is a limiting nutrient for an ecosystem size. And then this NPP concept can affect or plays into other things, like for example, the carbon cycle. The energy that's moved through the carbon cycle is often measured in units of NPP, and it also affects climate change. Humans consume 25% of the Earth's NPP, so therefore that's a huge impact on our global environment. Also, just one more thing to consider when you're dealing with NPP is transfer between trophic levels. Remember that 10% of energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next, and so we did those calculations with the Poll Everywhere questions in lecture, and just a reminder about those for your practical, and that finally there's more biomass at lower trophic levels.
All right, so just a brief overview of what we went over. I mean, y'all remember the Climate Change Forum. I mean, I don't think there's anything too specific there that you should know. Just know it's important, it's happening. Don't be a jerk to the environment. The limiting nutrients kind of works like a weakest link in the chain analogy. It's you're limited by whatever's whatever is the weakest thing you need to grow. All the lab techniques center around just allowing the algae to grow in the controlled environment. And then you use some metric of how much it grew to judge how well it did. And then you got to remember the ecological implications of this, like you remember the lake picture and all that. That's basically where it comes down to. We got a little poll everywhere question. Limiting nutrient success in the class. Right answer is A, by the way.
Oh no.
This is an excellent question. Good. Thank you very much.